When shocks ring out in the shadow of the nation's capital during a federal government shutdown, in an era of deranged spree killings, all sorts of nightmare scenarios leap into the imagination. But this time it was not a gunman opening fire, but Capitol Hill police after a woman with a baby in her car rammed White House barricades. After a high-speed chase, the woman was shot dead, but the child is safe. Who was this suspect? And was postpartum depression partly to blame for the episode? As the search for answers continues tonight, here's ABC's senior national correspondent, Jim Avila.
It was 47 minutes of supreme chaos that sent a shut-down Washington into Capitol lockdown.
You guys will be fine. Move 2 or 3 more blocks.
A high-speed car chase from one end of the famous stretch of Pennsylvania Avenue to the other, White House to Capitol Hill, leaving 2 officers wounded, the driver dead, and a startling discovery, a baby in the back seat of her car. It all began at 2:12 when the driver of this black Infiniti sedan rammed into a barrier on the southeast side of the White House.
You know, the barricade fell down because they were kind of plowing through. And at that point, you know, Secret Service was kind of getting more reactive, like, whoa, 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 trying to stop them. And then they just took off after they hit the barricade down.
Police immediately swarmed the scene, but the driver pulled away, careening down the street. By 2:30, she stopped at the Botanical Gardens. Look again as she's surrounded by police, guns drawn. A patrol car tried to block her, but she reversed and was off again as police fired on the fleeing vehicle.
It was a 2-door dark coupe, it looked like to me. Shortly after they arrived, I heard the gunshots, and then the car tore out of the area back, toward this direction with the police cars following it.
Immediately, the entire government corridor, from the president's house to the nation's capital, was placed on lockdown. The black car circled the Peace Memorial at a dangerous speed, as captured by a cameraman for Al Hurra TV, an Arab-language broadcaster funded by the U.S. government to gather news for Middle East viewers overseas. The driver raced up Constitution Avenue, past the Capitol, and is finally stopped just a block from the Supreme Court. Gunshots rang out and echoed across the Capitol. Baron Zoka was in his company office overlooking the scene.
I was on a call with the windows open, and I heard gunfire. So dropped to the floor. It was very rapid, so there were maybe 8 to 10 shots. And once that was over, I got up and looked out the window onto Constitution Avenue.
The smell of gunfire in the air, and Baron began shooting pictures and tweeting what he saw.
There were probably 30 cops, many of them in body armor with machine guns. There was an armored personnel carrier that came in about 5 minutes later.
So heavy-duty stuff was there.
Very heavy. They were clearing the scene, and what added to the feel of it was the smell of gunpowder.
Congressmen walking around the Capitol were told to hide their identities.
Then very excitedly, a police officer comes running towards me. He saw my pin and he goes, "Are you a member of Congress?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Let me see your identification." So I pulled out my identification. And he says, "Well, take your pin off." We wear these little pins around. And so he told me to take the pin off. He goes, "Because you could be a target."
And on the floor of the Senate, all proceedings are ordered to stop.
We thought we heard shots. We saw a lot of police cars, then we heard shots. And then the police told us to go back. We were simply walking back to our office.
I'd say we heard pops that sounded like shots.
Yeah.
The suspect was shot and taken to a nearby hospital where she died. A Capitol police officer, injured when his car hit a Capitol barricade, was also hospitalized, as was a Secret Service agent bumped by the car at the White House. Inside the suspect's car, there were no weapons, but something much more alarming, a 1-year-old baby, unhurt.
The child is approximately a year old and is in good condition and in protective custody. It does not appear in any way this is an accident.
Tonight, police are investigating the home of Miriam Carey, whose family members tell ABC News that she is the woman police suspect was involved in the incident. According to the family, she is a 34-year-old dental hygienist suffering from postpartum depression.
Come on, guys.
Today's chaos could not have come at a more tense time for Washington, this company town already on edge because of a government shutdown, and still recovering from the terrible violence of just a few weeks ago a few miles away from today's incident, when a lone gunman, 34-year-old Aaron Alexis, stormed Washington's Navy Yard with a shotgun and a handgun.
We got a report on the 4th floor, a male with a shotgun, multiple shots fired, multiple people down. We're still waiting for the okay that the scene has been secured.
Alexis, a government technology contractor, used security clearances to march through the building, where more than 3,000 military and civilian personnel work. The FBI released these surveillance tapes of Alexis haunting the halls, hunting for innocent targets. An hour and a half into his rampage, Alexis was shot to death after exchanging gunfire with police for more than an hour. 12 innocent people were killed, 4 wounded. It appears Aaron Alexis had a history of mental illness, hearing voices in his head, and being taunted by microwaves.
There are multiple indicators that Alexis held a delusional belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low frequency, or ELF, electromagnetic waves.
The horrifying Navy Yard attack stunned the Capitol. Later that same evening, a burst of pops were heard directly in front of the White House, sending it into lockdown. Secret Service agents tackled the man, but it turns out those pops were nothing more than firecrackers.
If you live in Washington, there's always a certain risk of something happening, and you're not surprised if something happens.
Today's wild chase comes during a bitter partisan standoff. The shutdown that for the Capitol police officers involved meant all work and no pay. All were required to work at their jobs, but they'll get no checks until after the stalemate is over. As the lockdown ended, Congress took a moment to acknowledge the chaos outside.
Madam Speaker, with your permission, I ask for a moment of silent prayer for those officers who have been injured today.
A brief moment of agreement in what this week has been anything but an agreeable town. For Nightline, I'm Jim Avila at the Capitol.